Woohoo! We are live! Yay! This is Math 60 Intermediate Algebra, and we're into Chapter 8, which is all about dealing with quadratic equations. We're looking at things that have x squared in them and how do you solve them. So we're going to start off with something the book calls the square root property. I've also seen it said just solve using square roots, so it's just going to depend on what book you're reading is what they call it. But I want to just jump in. A lot of these do have fancy formulas, but really the way I want to show you how to do it is by showing you how to do it, not talking about it. So let's dive right in. So if I have x squared equals 9. Now in the past I said move the 9 over and factor, right? The old way. X squared equals 9. We subtract 9 from both sides. X squared minus 9 equals 0. Then I would say, okay, that's the difference of two squares. X plus 3, x minus 3 equals 0. X plus 3 equals 0, or x minus 3 equals 0. This is still working. It's just fine. Subtract 3, x equals negative 3. Add 3, x equals 3. There we go, two answers. Now what we're going to say, you know what? That's awesome. That's awesome. However, if I have x squared equals 9, I mean, if I told you I have a secret number and I'm not telling you what it is, but when I square it, I get 9, you're going to know what number that is, I'm guessing. So I get x equals 3. And we would be really happy with this answer, except if we look over here, how many answers did we get? We got negative 3 and positive 3. We said when there's an x squared, there should be two answers. And here I went ahead and did this, and I said, oof, there's only one answer. So what do we have to do? Well, what we have to do is we have to remember that square roots have a bad habit of forgetting about negative numbers. So whenever we take the square root, I'm going to put in a plus or minus right there. Plus or minus. So my answers are going to be x equals plus or minus 3. I got to get both of them. That is the most important thing. Remember, oops, I can't even spell. Remember how to spell the plus and minus. I wonder, can I fix that? You know how I love to use my little tape thing. Ooh, and I've just, it's just, you know, today is not my day. Let's go with that. It's close enough. Something like remember, and makes y'all want to sing, doesn't it? Do you remember when the teacher wrote the remember wrong? Okay, we're a little punchy. We've been making a lot of videos. Let's move on. Solve x squared equals negative 9. Oh no, how could this possibly be? Well, but I'm going to say, you know what? Now that we showed you section 7.7, you learned how to use imaginary numbers. Woohoo! X squared equals negative 9. We're going to take radical x squared. We're going to take radical negative 9. We're going to remember the plus or minus has to go in there. And then we're going to say, okay, so x equals plus or minus, and then the minus inside the square root gives us a what? Gives us an I, plus or minus 3i. So x equals 3i or negative 3i. Ta-da! Okay, shall we keep going? I'm feeling all powerful. This method is just so simple, and there's no factoring, and there's no setting equal to 0, and life is so good. And oh no. Now what do I do? Exactly the same thing. And some people ask me, why do we put the plus or minus on the right side? Why not put it on the left side? And the answer is you could, but a lot of stuff is going on the left side, so it just seems like there's more than you want to deal with. Usually the right side is the side that has the number, the constant, so it's easier to deal with. Okay, so over here I've got x minus 4. Notice the square root of something squared, they undo each other. They're inverses. And so the squared and the square root kind of cancel each other out. And all I get is x minus 4. Over on the other hand, on the other side, I have plus or minus radical 9, which is 3. And then I have something interesting because I'm going to add 4 to both sides. And over on the left, I've got x. And over on the right, I've got 4 plus or minus 3. And then I think, oh no, this is the worst thing ever. Oh, sad Matt Damon. Where's sad Matt Damon? Oh, you guys get a moment. There, here we are. Oh no. And the answer is no. No, I know. Matt Damon is an actor, so he doesn't know how to do math as far as I know. However, it's really not that hard. So you can convince Matt Damon. You'd be like, no. And you say, no, you know what, Matt Damon? Look, you have a plus 3, so it's 4 plus 3, so that's 7. Or you have a minus 3. 4 minus 3 is 1. It's not that hard. And Matt Damon's all like, yay! I don't know. It's possible Matt Damon is actually secretly a mathematician and I've just insulted him, but you know, them's the breaks. So this one gets 2 answers, and notice they're not a plus or a minus of each other. Now, what if you have done some work and you're like, ugh, that seemed too easy. Can we check that? And I will say you can always check. Sometimes the checking is not fun, but you can always check. So let's go back to the original problem. It says x minus 4, the quantity squared, equals 9. So let's do 7. 7 minus 4, the quantity squared, is 3 squared, which is 9. Yep. Let's try 1. 1 minus 4, the quantity squared, is negative 3 squared. See how that sneaks up on the other side? So we do have the plus or minus 3, but the answers to get us there are 7 or 1. So far, so good? I know, this is everyone's favorite. Trust me. The next one, not everyone's favorite. Oop, this one's having trouble. In a long, very exciting night. As I'm recording this, this is Sunday morning, and I think this problem in particular had quite a Saturday night. Woohoo! Okay, are you all ready? We did simple, 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 and of course this one is death. Yes. So let's do the death problem. So you might notice first off that the left-hand side is not a perfect square. It's a bunch of gunk. But I'm going to point out, wait a minute, this is a perfect square. X squared minus 4x plus 4 is x minus 2, the quantity squared. And if you don't believe me, pause the video and check, double check that that's true. Okay, if you're back, good. If you didn't go check, then you just have to take my word for it. You should never trust your teachers that much. Okay, trust us a little bit. Like, we're not always lying, but you should always double check that you understand what they're talking about. Okay, so I've got x minus 2, the quantity squared, equals 15. I'm going to square root both sides. And immediately you're all going to say, wait, 15 isn't a perfect square. Oh, no, no, no. And I'm going to say, okay, there's still a square root of 15. We just don't know what it is. Square root of 15 is like 3 point something. I don't know what it is off the top of my head. It's a number, though. That counts. Square root of something squared cancels out, and we just get x minus 2 equals, and I left something out, and maybe you guys were yelling at me on the other side of the monitor and I couldn't hear you. Oh no, no, what did I leave out? I'll give you a moment to remember. You're right. Plus or minus. Oh man. Seriously, I don't know if I'm going to pass this class. Okay, so I've got x minus 2 equals plus or minus radical 15. I'm going to add 2 to both sides. There are a couple ways we could do it, but generally the way this is written is 2 plus or minus radical 15. So far, so good. Double check. Is there anything in 15 that'll simplify? And the answer is it's 5 times 3. There's nobody that can run. The bear is too big. Nobody is brave enough to run when it's just radical 15. So we leave it like that. And the question is, what are our answers? Well, our answers are very simple. 2 plus radical 15, 2 minus radical 15. You see that? You see that, happy Matt Damon? Are you happy? Yay! Yay! Woohoo! Okay, that's it. That is, I think that is 8.1, the square root method. Next up, we're going to do 8.1 and use a method whose name shall not be mentioned, except I need to, so you'll know what it is. The next thing we're going to do is called completing the square. I would say run away now, because once you start that video, there's no going back. You will know things. You will know things you will regret knowing. Knowing things that you don't know sometimes can hurt you. So I'm just warning you now. But go ahead and watch it, and then this full disclosure. Have your snuggly teddy by you. Have hopefully an empathetic dog, a friend you can call, that sort of thing. Okay, woohoo, woohoo. We will move on. Math on. Take care.